Welcome to EntrePods, the most cutting-edge podcast for entrepreneurs and investors. We answer the hottest question today. So now what? We are radically civilized with a focus on doable solutions that make the most positive impacts in your business, financial, personal, and community life. The world right now belongs to entrepreneurs. Today, we'll show you through our expert conversations that matter, the limitless opportunities you have right now to live the life of your dreams. The best version of you and your business starts now. Welcome to EntrePods.
Welcome, EntrePods. I'm so glad you're here today. And we have a super fun guest for you that you're absolutely going to adore. So today we're going to talk to the author of The Power to Speak Naked, How to Speak with Confidence, Communicate Effectively, and Win Your Audience. So, of course, that's always going to be a fun topic for me. You know, it's just the raw, naked truth, being able to speak to your passion, even if you're a little bit trembly. And I just absolutely love this. So about the author and the person we're talking to, he also owns other companies as well. And he's performed on stage, on television for over 30 years. And he doesn't look it, of course, because he must have genes that come out of, I don't know, some nirvanical whatever fountain. That's what I'm thinking. Fountain of youth, guys. Anyway, he's been on such productions as Freddie versus Jason, Door to Door, Carrie, Ragtime the Musical, and many more. He's also a master communicator and instructed hundreds of classes on public speaking and effective communication strategies. So let us give a big, EntrePods welcome to Sean Tyler Foley, and that's Sean Tyler Foley, and you can find him on SeanTylerFoley.com. And of course, we'll have that all for you. Anyway, hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Jennifer. And what an introduction. My goodness. I've never had my ego inflated so well in my entire life. That was good.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. It's always great to have people who've performed, and now you've made this incredible transition. So as an entrepreneur, I love that because we see that a lot in entertainment, but you've taken it in a different way. Usually entertainers will have specific things just for other entertainers, but you actually do industrial and safety, and you help all different types of people get their stories out from, people who just have a personal story that's important for them to be able to speak, other speakers, and then business people. I mean, I saw where someone was talking about you help them with negotiating a contract, or maybe it was a raise. And I thought, you're going to need to be able to have that confidence. So tell me a little bit about you and your journey and how you came to be here today.
Well, it's a pretty circuitous route, actually. I started
out
in theater when I was 6 years old, which was probably the greatest gift and the blessing that I could have ever had. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me to just explore and play and learn new things. I mean, one of the nice things about being in the arts is you're exposed to so many different types of people and different thoughts and ideas, and through both the people that you work with, but then the work that you do. Plays are an incredible way for us as a society to explore themes. And so to have been able to do that at a young age was absolutely spectacular. And then I did pursue it professionally. I was a professional actor and had the luxury. Most actors, when you ask them what they do, right, well, I'm a waiter at Denny's when I'm not auditioning for film, or I run baggage, or I do whatever. I'm a bellhop, right? And that's it's what the reality is when you're a working actor, is you're usually supplementing your income some other way. I myself, however, was very fortunate that I just got to act. That's all I did from the time I was 6 years old until I was about 25. And then I'd gotten a little tired of acting. It had become a job. What I liked about it when I was young was that it was play. I got to have fun. And at one point, it stopped being fun. So I took a step back from it and got a diploma in engineering. So geomatics specifically, that's map making and earth study. And I started my own company. And usually when you start your own company, particularly in the surveying industry, Your primary clients are usually the government. And so we needed to have a safety system in place for the company. And I then started to learn about safety. And the funny thing about it is, I found that I knew a lot about safety already, but from the work that I'd done in film doing stunts.
Ah, yeah.
So it was an amazing kind of uh, realization when I was able to meld two careers that, when you would think were polar opposites, uh, completely against the grain, and yet here they were. I had such commonality with it. And then the company that I had started didn't do so well, and it was over in about 3 years. But a good friend of mine needed a safety officer, and he said, "Listen, Tyler, you've got all of this information. You've taken this training. If I pay for these other two courses, you could actually have your safety designation, and I need a safety officer. Would you be willing to come work for me?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then I realized that in the way to make safety systems actually functional for any company is to communicate the reason why you're trying to keep your people safe. And that usually comes down to an analysis of your core values and why did you start your company. And so I all of a sudden took all of this information that I knew from acting and performing and became a really good safety guy, because I was able to train people effectively. I was able to communicate well. And then I was able to train them how to do that.
Mhm.
And then safety just kind of spun out the speaker training now. And that's kind of why the book got written. So many people were asking me, well, how do you do what you do? And how can I do it too? And I say the same things over and over again. And finally, a friend of mine said, you should really write that down and make a good book. And
Yeah,
so now
just
that's
like
how
it's
we
this
have it.
whole lifetime journey. It's actually crazy. The love of my life works for the military and he's a surveyor. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, how crazy is that? And it's just nuts, because when you were talking about safety and how important safety is, this is a little tidbit for a little bit of trivia for my EntrePods followers, is that for a period of time, this company is no longer open, but there was a company called Dixie Chemical Corporation. It was quite large here. And I was the voice of Dixie Chemical on their safety videos. Yeah. And I was, and my mother owned a temp agency, and she called me up. She goes, you know what? Your voice sounds okay. I can't find anybody to go do this, to do this job. And I basically got a job order. And so she sent me out. She goes, they'll just test you. And if you're not good, we'll get somebody else out, but it's kind of a rush job, but they liked me. And so, it's like, if you hear 5 alarms, run like hell, we're all going to die. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So those things like that. But that was that was quite some time ago, because Dixie Chemical, I'm pretty
There
sure.
is no more thankless job on the planet than being an industrial video voiceover performer. I've done dozens, if not hundreds.
Yes, that was very thankless, because you're under a lot of pressure. They really don't care. There's no creativity. It's just say, when the polyglycolic family, and you have to say it all in one thing, these long chemical things. That means you're gonna, this is what's gonna happen. And it was interesting though. And I had a lot of fun, because it was like totally not being a secretary, or, she would just run me to the moon. It was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No.
so now you've been safety, and now you're talking about The Power to Speak Naked. Tell me a little bit about the book, which, by the way, is on Barnes and Nobles. We'll have the link for everyone on The Power to Speak Naked by Sean Tyler Foley, and you go by Tyler. So tell me a little bit about the book. Like, what prompted you to write it? Is it just is it a how-to? Tell me about the book.
Well, so it's not necessarily a how-to so much as a deep dive into 35 years of experience. The reason the book was written was, I think that everybody has a story, and I think story unites us. I think that it is an incredible way for us to gain sympathy in the world. It's really hard for me to understand a position if you can't explain to me why you feel that way. But as soon as we can start telling story, now I can empathize with you, because I can walk a mile in your shoes, right? Never judge a person until you walk a mile in their shoes. And frankly, I there's a lot of high heels that I have never slipped myself into. So let me walk through and tell me your story. So the book came about as kind of a deconstruction, first of all, about why I don't get stage fright. I have had stage fright twice in my life. I distinctly remember both times happening, but I needed to go back and figure out why it was that I was so comfortable on stage. Like, why is it that I live for this, and yet 77% of the world is terrified of it? It's a bigger fear than dying, apparently, which leads to Jerry Seinfeld's great joke, right? That means that most people would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. And to me, that's mind blowing, because I seek it out. I'm somebody who wants to be on stage, who loves a platform. Ironically enough, I'm an introvert. Like, people, when they see me in public, they're like, "Oh, you must be an extrovert." I'm like, "No, actually, I'm not comfortable in public settings." But one of the things that I find the most freeing about stage is that it's not a public setting; it's oddly private. Like, I'm on my own, and I'm sharing an experience with an audience, but there's the fourth wall. It's an odd barrier. And even when I'm interacting with an audience, which is my favorite thing to do, right? Ask questions and deep dive with my audience instead of having monologue. I like to have a dialogue. But it's odd. It's weirdly freeing for me as an introvert to be able to get out and express myself that way. So to be able to talk to people who have developed a fear of what they think is public speaking. And the reality is, we're not afraid of public speaking. We do it every day. You and I are speaking in public right now. We're having a public conversation. If you go to the mall and have a coffee with a friend, you're speaking in public. So we're not afraid of public speaking. Usually what we're afraid of is judgment of the things that we're going to say. And so one of the things that I started to discuss in the book is the thing you're afraid to say is very likely what the world needs to hear. We all have these fears on the inside that if we expose our soft, gushy parts to the world, somehow we're going to be attacked. And I wanted to dispel that myth very rapidly and give people the power to speak, as you had said in the intro, beautifully, by the way, to speak your raw, naked truth, which is really what the book is about.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I find this book to be very timely in an age of social media censorship, because it is amazing that I can go on TikTok right now and be like, wow, this person's really opening up. Like, why are you doing that on TikTok? But there are people who are needing to do it on TikTok, right? And then they get a lot of support, but then they get a lot of hate too. And I'm like, this is just so not, I think positive, this, because in an audience, you're there, you can look at them, you can say, why are you saying this? Why are you thinking this? They're them. They have to, they can't hide, which I find very cowardly, behind, these, anonymous things. And so I was reading this report about, like, why aren't more younger people embracing free speech, the freedom to just speak your truth? I mean, that is like one of the things, and I know that phrase, live your truth, speak your truth, now that's getting a bad connotation with people. They're like, but really that's actually quite important for us to be able to do. It's the whole reason we're here, is to find out what our purpose is, why God put us here, or our source, or why we're here. If you're an atheist, whatever it is, you still have to figure that out. That's like one of the things that you kind of need to do. And so if you're so afraid of free speech, why is that? And the article was like, talked about well, that's what the article said, is they're afraid of free speech, because free speech in their world, in their society, comes with terrible consequences, even when they're being truthful and honest with no rancour whatsoever. And I thought, this is bad. Right. So I love the fact that you have a book out there, and you're an actor, and you're on movies that people have watched, and you can say, I'm an introvert, but I'm open, and it's okay. And we need to do this, because we need to do this. You know what I mean? Yeah, we can't be afraid.
And it's funny that you mentioned, counterculture, social media, and censorship, because I am actually not allowed to advertise this cover on Facebook, Instagram, or Amazon.
Really?
Because for your listeners, the cover of my book is a naked man, but faced backwards, with the power to speak naked over covering anything that would be considered.
Literally, you
considered
see more just walking out of your house. It only alludes to the fact that he's naked. He could have full clothes on because it's just the top of his shoulders and back, and then it's just a little portion of his leg. There is nothing at all that would be considered controversial. Literally the magazines, Vogue, Vanity Fair, Shape magazine, Men's Fitness are more revealing than this cover.
Yeah, and yet it violates their nudity policy by drawing overt sexual attention, and I can't remember what else. There's a whole paragraph of litany of reasons why I'm in violation of decency. And
I don't believe it's that. I believe it's that you're telling people to speak freely.
Well,
I believe that's
I
the
wonder
real
if that's
problem.
it.
Yeah, because I've seen other covers that are 10 times, a million times worse. It is a direct violation, like the Dr. Seuss thing. I actually looked at the books, the Zebra and the other books that they had. And each one of the books, the only books were the ones of follow your own intuition, ask questions, don't go with the flow.
Yeah.
The only books that were banned were the books talking about free think, be your own person, value your own voice, and don't go with the crowd. And I'm like, it's just scary, pardon me. I could go on that because I'm just, I'm a parent and I have kids, and, I want them to be able to not be terrified of saying what they see or noticing something. I feel like people can't even notice things anymore,
Well, and I think that's it too. I think what we need to do is take a step back and observe the world through the eyes and lens of the curiosity of a 5-year-old.
Yes.
My daughter is 5 years old right now, and she asks some of the most amazing questions. And especially because she's starting to see the world and piece things together and make really interesting connections. And she has questions. Why is one of her friends skin darker than hers, right? And a couple. And why are some people blonde and some people dark hair and blue eyes and brown eyes? And why do these people live here? And why do I live here? Now, I have the joy and the freedom with my career to be able to travel. And one of the most beautiful things that I'm able to do with her is when she asks questions, when it's not locked down, we can fly to these places and experience different cultures. And it's one of the greatest things that happened to me was because of my career. I've been in over 40 countries, stamped in my passport. In my early 20s, I was a travel hound and I was all over the place. And I've gotten to live in some beautiful, beautiful places and seen the world and realize that, we're all humans. And to be able to challenge my own conceptions. I grew up in a very, very redneck rural community in southern Alberta, which is essentially Texas North. And I had a lot of my, and then I had the freedom of growing up in the arts too. So I was exposed to different thoughts and ideas within my own community at an early age, but then to be able to travel to different areas of the world and see different cultures and experience them, from Europe to Southeast Asia to Australia to the Middle East, being able to just be exposed to different thought and see that, that different doesn't mean wrong, right? Two people can have different opinions and still both be right. And I think about it even when I'm doing my safety. We do incident investigation. And usually when you have an incident, you're going to have witnesses and you want to interview witnesses. Same thing that would happen with the police or any other time where there's an accident and you need to have it looked at. And I will interview witnesses to an incident, and they will tell me what they saw happen. Now, we can all agree that something happened, and that is the truth. That thing happened. And the way that everybody viewed it is still correct. They saw it this way. And yet often when I'm doing these interviews and gathering witness statements, there are elements that remain consistent, but the stories are always different. And it's what I would encourage people to remember is that we all experience the world differently, which is why I want to empower people to tell their story, because I don't understand your viewpoint until I can get into your eyes. And that's the power of story, is that it allows me to drop into your head and see the world through your eyes. Why do you see it that way? And now I can start to develop an understanding through empathy. And that's what I would encourage people to do. And it's unfortunate that when you speak a truth, right, as you said, particularly now on social media, it's wonderful because you have all the cheerleaders.
Right.
But then you also have all the trolls. And it's the trolling that I don't understand. Critical thought, I do. Hey, have you thought of this? But we can do it in a way without attacking. And I think it's the attack, that it's this us versus them mentality, this black and white and these borderlines. And I often ask people, what are you doing? Are you setting up boundaries or are you setting up barriers?
Yep. That is a very good observation, because I've lived in other countries. My son I've taken to other places. We had trips back, going around and doing it. But also too, there are people I can completely empathize with. Like, I get it, but it doesn't mean I agree with it. It doesn't mean that I will be immersed in it. It means that, wow, I have been able to make that decision. I understand them. I don't hate them, but that's not for me. That is not my culture or my thought process, or I don't think like that. I've met people, I've spoken to, I wrote a book as well, and I would speak to colleges, and because I was homeless, I spent to people in shelters, and I talked to kids that were in crisis, kids that were homeless, kids who came from the justice system. And I understood, and I've met a lot of very angry people too. They're pissed, they don't understand. They feel like the only way to get ahead is because someone got lucky or they had some advantage and they just didn't have it, and they don't see it. They're completely blocked off to the possibility. And so I can still talk to them. I can still empathize them. I can still understand exactly why they feel that way, but then I don't have to feel that way. Or I can say, wow, I wish you could open up to this, but I do, one thing. And I talked to another guest once, and he was like, I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's okay, because someone else's feelings are not my responsibility. Their health, their welfare really isn't my responsibility. I know that we're being taught something different right now. There's like this whole movement that is, everyone else is our responsibility. We deserve and have nothing for ourselves. And I feel the opposite. I'm like, I can only take care of myself. You take care of yourself. And, we have a social contracts with each other. I get in the call and I'm going to be as safe as possible. Not just for me, but I want everybody to be safe as possible. And that works out, But yeah, once you can do that, it also takes the anger away.
Yeah.
You don't hate other people when you understand them. You just don't. And
that's why I love the curiosity of a 5-year-old.
Yes.
My daughter hates exactly 2 things: bedtime and bees. That's it. That's what she hates. Right. And everything else is a learned behavior. And as soon as we recognize that and we realize that, we can get curious, because we can unlearn just as easily as we can learn. And I'm loving this period. I'm in my early 40s, and to be able to rewind time. I know.
Man, you look amazing for your early 40s. You look like
Thank you. I moisturize and have been in film.
Well, also put your treatment down. I know there's a million people who are going to come to YouTube to be watching this and are like, no way. But yeah. Okay.
Coconut oil. It's an amazing thing. I learned it while I was living in Malaysia. So, but I get to experience life again through the eyes of my daughter. And that's a gift that I don't know how to be thankful for the grace of that. Especially because my wife and I weren't really sure that we wanted to have kids. So to have kids later in life, and the energy and vitality that has been renewed in me just because I have to keep pace with a 5-year-old who doesn't.
It's amazing
quit.
how
Bunny.
kids keep us young, even if it's in it, whatever. There's many ways. I look at my son and I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited I get to do this, because they do look at things with new eyes, with open hearts, open thoughts, and it is a renewing, wonderful thing. Love it. I love it. Guys, we have been just talking so much. So we've been talking with Tyler Foley. You can go to Sean Tyler Foley, and that's SeanTylerFoley.com. His book, The Power to Speak Naked, Naked by Sean Tyler Foley, is on Barnes & Noble. We'll have all the links and everything. So before we go, Tyler, just let me know, is there anything you want to tell people about maybe their fear or how they can get through that to just speak their truth in your campaign now, which I am so, I agree with very much.
Yeah. So I'll leave your audience with this thought. And we'd allude to it at the beginning. The thing you're afraid to say is what the world needs to hear. And the way to express that is to find your authentic self. And that word has been misused. So I want to remind you that authenticity is synonymous with self-awareness. You need to know who you are in order to truly express yourself. And if you can know yourself, that's where you find the comfort to reveal yourself. And I promise you, by saying what's on your mind, you are more likely to find the people who are on your side than you are. Nobody, one person is always going to agree with everyone else. There will always be challenge, but find the challenge and find the way to lead with love to win those people over. And the easiest way to do that is to tell it through your story. Use your story to change the world. That's how we communicate. That's how we make things better.
And you're absolutely right. Guys, we have heard a lot of really incredible stuff today. I want to thank you, Tyler, for being on the show today. This has just been absolutely incredible. I can't wait for this episode to drop so everyone can hear this and go, yeah, he's right. I'm just going to go and be myself, and it's going to be great. And so, guys, remember, you can find, like, and share us by going to @EntrePods. Please do that. That helps us continue to get incredible guests like Tyler on the show and to spread a lot of this education that we all need to uplift ourselves and just to live our best life possible. Be also sure to rate us 5 stars. And if you have any specific questions for Tyler or questions for me, don't forget we have the membership at EntrePods.com, along with a lot of other great things. So come on and visit us there. Thank you again. Have a wonderful week. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and please go give us a 5-star rating on your preferred listening platform if you enjoyed the show. This helps us reach more listeners like you and keep booking amazing guests. If you'd like to join our growing EntrePods community, want our social media links to like or share, or inquire about one-on-one strategy calls with our host Jennifer, please visit EntrePods.com. See you next time, and here's to you and your best life imaginable.